Morning, guys. Today we're going to take a look at page 17 of the Unit 4 Classwork pack. Now, a lot of this is review. When we talk about slope-intercept form, we are talking about the following equation: y equals mx plus b. One of your favorite equations from Algebra 1 last year. In that equation, m represents the slope, whereas b represents the y-intercept. Now, one thing that you may have to be prepared to do on the EOC in some form or another is you may have to be able to write the equation of a line given its graph. The easiest way to do that is to use the rise over run for slope and then to read the y-intercept off the graph. Let's take, for example, number 1, okay? Number 1, let's find the slope first. To find slope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from one point and I'm going to rise and then I'm gonna run. So in this case, let's actually calculate that. Starting here, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I rose 5, and then I ran 2. So what that means is that my slope is 5/2. Similarly, I can read the y-intercept right off the graph. Y-intercept is -1, -2, -3, -4. So b is -4. Thus, the slope-intercept form equation would simply be y equals 5/2 x minus 4. Easy peasy. A slight variation on this is found in example number 2, because instead of rising, this line is actually falling. To use formal mathematical language, we would say that this particular line has a negative slope, or you could say it has a negative rate of change. We do it the same way. The only difference is instead of rising, we fall. So let's take a look. So in this case, I have to fall, let me draw a little better, and then I have to run, okay? So how many do I actually fall? I fell 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me write that down. I fell 4, and I ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now the most common mistake people make here is they think that means the slope is 4/5. Because it's falling, the slope is actually not positive. It's, by contrast, negative 4/5. Similarly, I can read the y-intercept right off the line. The y-intercept, or my b value, is -2. So if I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, that means that I can write the equation of the line pretty simply. Y equals -4/5 x minus 2. Now, a word of caution here. You're not going to see this exact question on the end of course exam for the simple reason this is actually an Algebra 1 problem. However, one thing that they do tell us is that on the EOC, you may have to be able to do something like this, right? So find the slope using rise over run in order to write the equation of a parallel or perpendicular line. So even though this particular concept is a pure review of Algebra 1, you are responsible for it on the EOC, on the PSAT, on your Unit 4 test, and, well, pretty much just in general, okay? Now, the other concept that we need to know that relates to Algebra 1 is how to convert from standard form to slope-intercept form. So now we're looking toward the bottom of page 17. Alrighty. Now, standard form, yeah, I think it kind of gets a bad rap, right? People like to badmouth it quite a lot. They're like, oh my god, it's useless. Why would I ever do that? That's actually not strictly true. Standard form is really good for one thing, and it's really good for finding the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts of a line, okay? So it actually does have an advantage. That being said, from the perspective of like knowing my slope, it's not very helpful. So what I want to do is I want to be able to convert that into slope-intercept form by solving for y. Let's take a look at how to do this in an example or two. Okay, let's start off with example number 7. Number 7 says this: x plus y equals 6. Now I'm going to make a suggestion here, and you can take it or you don't have to. A lot of times people get confused when there's no number in front of the x. Just remember, guys, that's actually a positive 1. Okay, and that's going to be helpful in a moment. So in order to get y by itself, I have to get rid of this positive 1x. What's the opposite of a positive or a plus? That would be a minus. So I subtract 1x from both sides, and I get y equals, you could say 6 minus 1x, but if we're going to put it in slope-intercept form, -1x plus 6. Why did I do that? So you guys could see that the slope is -1, and the y-intercept is positive 6. All right? Let's take a look now at example number 9. Same basic concept, right? For example number 9, I have 2x minus 4y equals 28. Okay, well, how do I get y by itself? I would start by subtracting the 2x. So let me write that out. So negative 4y equals negative 2x plus 28. Remember, the reason I wrote it like this is the commutative property. The commutative property lets me switch around a plus sign. And then to get rid of a multiplied negative 4, I divide everything through by negative 4. So in this case, negative 2 over negative 4, that simplifies down to positive 1/2 x. And positive 28 over negative 4 is going to give me, I hope that's not going on the board. There we go. Positive 28 over negative 4 is going to give me negative 7. So in this case, my equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 7. Okay? So in sum, standard form is not very useful for finding the slope. In order to find the slope, your best course of action is to convert to slope-intercept form by getting y by itself. Normally, 9 times out of 10, the best way to do that solving is to get rid of the x's first and then divide by the coefficient of the y.